right, everyone. In my continuing of helping with the pitch it people, that program that I love that I did in 2022, I now have Wayne Kramer, right?
Indeed. Thank you.
Wayne
Thank you very much.
Kramer from Symoda on here. And so, Wayne, tell us a little bit about yourself, what Symoda does, and maybe give us a quick introduction to customer experience and why you care about it.
Indeed. So I guess high level, just so everybody knows. Hi, Adam. Thank you very much for having me here. My experience comes from the MSP space. I've been here probably almost 20 years. Worked from a MSP back in Ireland, also although in Ottawa. I moved over here to Canada approximately 15 years ago. Joined a small MSP. We helped build and grow that. Became a partner in there, and we sold it to private equity approximately 4 years ago. At our peak, we were probably 90 staff, supporting 180 customers, managing in around 11,000 nodes. So you get to sit down and understand the experiences that everybody goes through when you've got that amount of people reaching out to you all the time looking for stuff. So that's where customer experience kind of grew for me. But today, just so everybody knows, I've now actually jumped off into a product company called Symoda. Basically, what we're doing at the moment is we're building a mobile-first communication platform to help with communication between MSPs and their end users. So how do we solve the day-to-day, where's the updates on my tickets? How can I create a ticket nice and easy and quickly? And then help solve for the MSP hey, we need an approval to work forward with our issue with you right now. So, hey, can I either reboot your machine, or I need someone else to confirm that I can do this work on this device? And really kind of help drive that time frame it takes for those communication platforms or the communication to happen, because the other platforms out there are just email and phone, and generally you're chasing people and all those different things. So that doesn't become great. We work with all PSAs, or all the main PSAs, so ConnectWise, Autotask, we got Zendesk, and we'll be shortly working towards Halo. And really the big thing that we've done is we've really evolved the push notification piece and make that available to MSPs. So now you can send those push notifications out to people and ask them, hey, can I reboot your machine right now? And it's a quick yes, no. It's not I get lost in, as I said, in those previous technologies.
Okay.
As well as also being able to ask that main point of contact, hey, do you approve me to do X work on this ticket as well? So they can quickly look through, understand that, make approvals, and get things working, and really kind of modernize it. The one thing that every one of our customers has got on this line from every single one of their customers, or at least a couple of their customers that they deployed it out to their customer base, is that it's nice to see you guys move us out of the Stone Ages for communication. So, it's always lovely to sit back and hear that end users truly like it. So,
Yeah, and I think that brings us back to the customer experience, because today people aren't just sitting on their desktops all day. I mean, well, I am, but having our mobile phones is our primary computer now.
Yep.
If you look at most businesses, like I'm in meetings all day, I'm bouncing around to different offices, and I have my laptop with me, but I'm not checking email while I'm talking to other people.
Yep.
But I have my phone with me. Hey, can I do this now? Oh yeah, go ahead and do that. That's how I live my life. Like, my kids are texting me. Like, you'll see me, like, if you ever see me in the podcast, I glance down to my right, and it's because my wife or a kid, or there's an emergency, and I'm trying to, like, that auto respond to text, like, yes, I'll do that. No, I will talk to you later. And I'm trying to do it as casually as possible, because we're trying to do so many things at once. And the person across the screen from me is my priority, but my family is number one.
Yep.
However, I'm not going to interrupt my entire conversation or a product demo or a help session and pick up my phone. But if you can text me, I'm good. And so, working with me on Adam Walter, if you text me, I'll respond. If you leave me a voicemail, I might get back to you next week, depending on how the translation went in the text that I get from that thing. But customer experience, what does that mean to you in particular? For me, it means listening to the customer and learning about what they want. What's that called? The platinum rule: treat others how they want to be treated.
Exactly.
What is customer experience to you? Like, how did your successful MSP solve the customer experience issue?
The way we looked at it was that, and we figured this out nice and early, that there's technically 3 layers within every customer that you need to communicate with. I think by default we think that everybody wants to be communicated in the exact same way, but that's actually not the case at all. So if you look at those 3 layers and we break them down, like the bottom of that layer, which is the majority of people, are the end users who need to create tickets and have issues to be solved. And quite often they've been dealing with a problematic issue for a while, and then they eventually get to a stage where I can no longer do my work until I need help with it. And we forget that there's an element of anxiety around people reaching out and asking for help, first of all. And then second of all, when it comes to IT and they don't feel that they have the confidence in what they will need to talk about and explain it to someone, that drives another level of issues there. So then making something easy for them to be able to go, exactly like you said, having that text message feel, having the ability to be able to understand, does someone actually have my issue? So we have a progress bar, like within Symoda, for instance, to solve that. But generally people don't know. They feel that things have gone into kind of an element of a black hole, so you don't quite know kind of where things have gone to. So allowing people to know that we got your issue, we understand what's going on with your issue, we understand the priority of your issue, and we have prioritized your issue accordingly for you, because their issue to them might feel like the biggest issue in the world, because they may have people breathing down their necks. And within the IT fishbowl, we don't get to see that, so we don't understand the pieces that are happening there. And then the next layer you have is like those people who you're dealing with day to day. So that main point of contact for that organization. So they're the people who are confirming that, hey, yes, you can reboot my servers tonight, or hey, yes, you can confirm, you can buy the Microsoft licenses and all those things. And they're very tied closely to the MSP. And it's almost like they want to be integrated into your tools to a degree. They want to be able to work alongside the MSP and see stuff. They don't want to be technical or do things, but they care that much about the relationship that you are incredibly important to them. And they will probably class and say that you're the most important vendor that they have. Because when there's a technical issue out there and someone can't do work for their customers, they feel that. And then kind of that next layer on top of that is the owners, the VIPs, the people who pay the check. And they don't tend to want to get involved in the day-to-day issues of IT, but they do want to make sure that everybody's happy. And they want to ensure that everybody, well, I won't say that everybody, but for themselves, if they're looking for support, that to a degree they are getting an element of white glove treatment. It's like, hey, I'm the owner coming in the door. Hey, you're going to react a little bit differently if I turn around and say, hey, this is a problem. Because stuff has escalated to them and they feel to do that. So for us, we found that once we figured out to communicate at all those levels with our customers, or when we kept that communication open and free and great, that's when we had the best relationships with our customers. And our customers went past the, hey, IT is something we needed, to then being something that was truly, you are a vendor that we trust. And then that drove everything from whether it was projects or our VCIO relationships or account management relationships to even to referrals as well on the other side. And because again, we just understood what everybody needed and we communicated in that way. And we trained our teams in that way to be able to communicate that way too.
Oh, sorry. I had myself on mute because I had a weird buzzing going on over here.
Sorry, Adam.
I mean, it's that discovery, right? And as you're putting it, like dealing with customers is complex. There's different layers.
Yep.
You said you had 3 layers to it. And I often talk about when you understand what the layer you're talking to is, if you want to be invited into the room with the C levels, you need to understand what they are needing, what level of activity.
Yep.
We also need to understand that there's another user who just wants a new mouse.
Yeah.
You know what? It's sticky, it's gross, or it doesn't have that extra button they want. And they'll throw a fit in, and they have a lot of pull at the organization. And to them, this is a big deal because they're under a lot of pressure. And the one thing they can blame is this mouse. And helping them out and saying, hey, look, I hear you. I'm going to take care of you. But then when you get to that, like that boss, like, hey, I need to talk to Sue, the CEO. When do you think I get time with them? And you're talking to that person who you just got them the mouse they want to. You got to them on time. You set those expectations. And so you succeed at that level. Now you can succeed at the planning in the enterprise level. Like, oh yeah, let me go out and talk to Sue for you. Like I'll say, hey, Wayne wants to talk to you on, is there any time I can get on your calendar? And she may say, oh yeah, just go ahead and put something on my calendar. You know it, you've got access to it. And that's how you get in the door. But then when you talk to Sue, the CEO, you don't talk about the mouse. You talk about the employee and how you cared for them.
Yep.
And then you talk about what else can I do to help your people be more successful.
Exactly.
And you're asking that CEO those questions. And to me, that speaks to customer service. When I came in as a CIO and I would talk to schools or I'd talk to businesses, my number one thing was to ask about the people. Ask about what's going on. Hey, can I meet with your key individuals in your organization and get a feel for how the organization works? And then I would line up a good experience for them based upon what they're looking for. Some organizations want lots of documentation. They want you to spell out everything. Other organizations want you just to stay out of the way and get things done. Others want you to be really insertive in how you're doing technology. Like, just tell us what to do. Others are looking for budgetary restrictions. They're trying to like, hey, look, I don't have a lot of cash. What's my most important thing I need to work on here?
Yep.
So how do you handle that when you were working with MSPs or when you were working with customers?
It was incredibly similar to what you just kind of said there, Adam. In all fairness, like we were as a kind of MSP base, we understood that relationship was key. So we would do as much as we could before we sat down and had a conversation to remove as many barriers for that customer to be able to move forward with whatever the solution was to solve their problems. Quite often, I know a complaint a lot of MSPs get from their customers is that you don't understand how I run my business. You don't understand how we make money and how those things are. So again, to that point, we would kind of sit down and understand as much as we could about that industry.
And I want to stop you there. You said a key phrase, how I make you money or how I make money.
Exactly.
If you don't know what that is for your customer, and I mean, you should be able to walk in there and say, oh yeah, I don't want to disrupt this because this is their revenue source.
Yep.
You don't know how to give your customer a good experience. I'm gonna put that out there. So I had to call it out because it's a big important thing. If you don't understand your client's revenue stream, you won't be able to give them a good experience, or it'll be very difficult to.
It means you're always going to be comparing apples to oranges every time you talk to them, and that becomes that then erodes your trust. That then means that very quickly you're moved from not being in those C-level conversations to, hey, you're dealing with that account, or not the account, the office manager or the person who's been given the hat as being the primary contact for you, and then you're always stuck underneath that layer. You're not talking to the right people at the right time.
We like to surround ourselves with similar people.
Yep.
And if you keep coming to the CEO and talking about tickets and tasks and engineering items, which we love, don't get me wrong, I love cracking open a brand new server and looking inside. It's like opening a new bag of potato chips. That smell just hits you, and we love that. Business people, like, that's just another device, right?
Yep.
And so we look at this as, okay, now who's the person across the table from me? It's the CEO. Yep. Well, I'm a CEO of my MSP. What do I care about? I care about new customers. I care about new revenue. I care about maintaining revenue.
There you go.
Talk to them about how you're doing that and become relatable. Now you're somebody they want to keep around you.
Yep.
And when they see that your priorities as a CEO or as a leader within the MSP are similar to theirs at their organization, they're like, man, I really love doing business with these people because they get what we do and we have very similar cultures. And when you do that, there isn't anybody who's going to oust you.
Yep. That's it. We were a firm believer of, once we had the agreement, then we had that relationship, that we could always grow that relationship, and we could sow the seeds, make things better, even if things weren't going good as well. Because they will give you the better that things are happening there means that you have the chance to turn it around, so you're not losing customers. It gives you a competitive advantage in comparison to everybody else who's out there, because you're talking their language and their business problems, not just here's a whole pile of IT problems that you have. Obviously, there's certain things that you can't like not shy away from, whether that comes down to security or compliance or stuff these days. But we got to remember we're trying to explain something incredibly technical to people who have outsourced the help for this because they're not technical at all.
Yeah.
And they just want to know, how does this affect my business? How do I protect myself within my business? And how does this either make me have a competitive advantage against my customers,
Yep.
or my competitors for my customers? That's a high level of what they're looking for all the time. So even just being out there in the surrounding areas and understanding like what are these people going to? Are they going to Chamber of Commerce meetings? What groups are they part of? What's the information that's coming out from there? You can glean so much before you jump in front of a customer about social posts, influencers within that industry itself, and understand to a degree, hey, these are big things that are happening within your industry right now. So here's areas where we should be looking at to adopt and jump on. Do you want to be ahead of everybody? Are you happy to be a laggard? You're just okay with just kind of tweaking a couple of margins here or there and maintaining your current customer base? Like what's the plan? Where are we trying to get to? And a lot of companies forget that. And like even as MSPs, like we have these ideas ourselves. What do we want to do? What is our 5-7 year plan? Because like IT changes all the time, so we got to adopt. Like we're arriving to a point of where consulting is going to be a huge thing for us to do. And if you're not learning your customers' businesses, you're not going to be able to consult with them in the future once the majority of their stuff is all in the cloud. It's all SaaS orientated. It's all ISP as a service. And you're not walking in the door with as much hardware as you used to before.
Yeah, and I think that's a problem now. You just said 5 to 7 year plan. I'm working with a lot of MSPs, and what I see is people working on plans they came up with 10, 15 years ago. They're still the same company back then. They're more mature, but they're just a more mature shop that's going to help this technology. Whereas, when was the last time you sat down and thought, okay, what am I going to deliver for my customer? What am I going to help them? Am I going to help them with VR technologies? Am I going to help them understand supply chain mechanics today? Am I going to help them understand how to do SOC audits? That's going to be a big thing here in a couple of years. And what am I going to be helping my customers with as things like software and hardware become commodities that they are just buying directly from the reseller? What does the future of my MSP look like? You're so busy working in the weeds and becoming more efficient at delivering computers, you forget to stop and think, does my customer want me to deliver computers? Maybe this customer wants to be 100% mobile. They don't care about their laptops. They just want their mobile phones to work because it's this massive workforce. They're a trucking company, and every one of their users has a cell phone, and they want those cell phones to be really useful and able to communicate back to the home office just like a laptop. Okay, what is the core needs of that? Are we able to deliver that MDM to this customer?
Yeah.
What does that look like? And again, I'm not on the ground with you guys. I'm in a software company trying to help you talk to your customers. That's my goal, is to help you talk to your customers. But what you need to be doing is understanding, where are your customers going over the next 5 years? Where are their industries going? And how can you help them with things like 5G implementations? Yep. How are you helping them with maker labs at schools so the kids can get an advantage while they're in school? How are you helping them adopt VR if necessary? What is that next level for your customers? That's on you as a technology provider to figure out.
I totally agree with what you said there, Adam. I feel, I know we've kind of gone a little bit away from our customer experience piece here, but
this is directly in customer experience.
We still are. Don't get me wrong.
If you're still focused on warranties today on PCs, you're missing the boat. The customer cares about other things than warranties. The PC is a $500 asset to them.
That's an expectation that you are just doing it. They don't technically want the report unless there's a compliance reason for have the report. That you actually have the warranties covered. They just assume that you're going to reach out to them in time to say, yes, your warranty is is ending on this, so let's make sure it's in the budget. And they just assume it's automatically in the budget for next year because we're planning to do to work together.
It's something you've assumed
Yep.
that your customer wants to hear about because they wanted to hear about it 10 years ago or 15 years ago.
Exactly.
You haven't talked to your customer and you're working off a false assumption.
Yep.
Or a presupposition. I know my customers want to hear about licensing. Or do they just want to hear about licensing because you've always talked about it and they don't think you know how to talk about anything else? Okay, so a funny thing along here is I've been considering doing this, and I think several others of us have been considering doing this for booths at events as a vendor. I'm going to put a sign up that says, we'll talk about, and then say D&D, fishing, like actual fishing, like, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
And like, we'll talk about anime. We'll talk about fantasy novels.
Yeah.
And just be like, we are more than just this one thing.
That's it. 100%. We are an incredible, important cog in all our customers that are there. They want us to connect with them. Imagine if you actually walked into your customer and said, hey guys, I'm going to do a presentation on fishing. And you spent that first 10 minutes actually just talking about fishing. It was like, here's the latest things that are coming out with rods. Here's the latest thing that's got. People would actually sit and enjoy that. You'll have people in the room like, oh, this is amazing. I actually love this. And you will create more of a human connection with that person afterwards. That there's kind of going to be, you want to be in collusion with your companies to a degree to be able to understand what's happening. And like, this is what I was about to say kind of earlier, was that I feel that we've accidentally gone down the path of allowing standardization to dictate to us what is IT delivery now. Instead of, there once was a time when we were most excited back in our MSP 15 years ago, was that our customers were coming saying, hey, what's this brand new thing that came out? How do I implement it? And you're like, oh, hang on a second. Let me look and see.
How do I get on the World Wide Web was the number one
question
when I got into IT.
How do I get it? How do I get a website? How do I do this? And then
Flash 4, baby. Or
wow, there's a blast from the past. But yeah, we had all these things. Like we were it was exciting. Whereas I feel now we've accidentally allowed ourselves to get to very standardized. And I feel like this has caused us to lose touch a little bit with our customers and their needs.
Yeah.
But I do think that we're potentially on the verge of being forced back in to understand that. I think things like the large language models for AI, those things are going to force us to think of things in a very different way, because this is still a very much customer relationship trust organization and relationship that we're doing. So we got to figure out how to evolve that and jump into new technologies again.
Yeah, I think, you know, we've kind of gone the way of the automotive industry. We've automated so much, and now the process is down to, like, I have this lecture I give about things start off at a tier 5 where a CEO has to decide what to do. I think it's handled down through project management, through engineering 1, 2, 3, until finally it's an automatic thing.
Yep.
I mean, think about how hard it was to build servers 20 years ago. And that was like a 3-day project. Today, it's a right click of a mouse, spin up new server.
Yeah.
And so when you get to that level of automation, it's easy to see this as an assembly line. I don't need to talk to the customer anymore about how to build this car. I'm going to build this car and I'm going to give it to them.
Yep.
You've taken all of the art out of it.
Exactly.
And so we need to get back to sit down with your customer, talk to them about what they're trying to accomplish. Maybe it is something with AI. Maybe they want to learn how to do better customer service through AI.
Yeah.
Maybe they want to do something that you haven't even heard of, a technology in their field that's emerging that you haven't heard of because you're not in their field. Like, hey, well, let me look into that for a little bit and let's see how it'll fit into your systems.
Yep.
That's the exciting part of engineering. That's the exciting part of customer experience. And that, guess what? They feel heard when you listen to them about their problems and then you solve a problem that they've had for years.
100%.
And sometimes that is simple as a mouse that you're replacing that they've been struggling with. They just thought this is the way it was. And you give them a nice MX series, MX Logic mouse.
Nice
like,
way to it.
This is glorious.
I love it, man.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on, Wayne. Any parting thoughts? If an MSP could work on one thing for customer service, what should they work on?
I would recommend as those pieces figuring out, do that kind of review. Are we talking well at each of those layers and the levels that people want? So that end user, that point of contact, that C level, and then figure out who's the people in your organization who's best to do that. Does it mean the C level of the MSP communicates with the C level of your customers and pick like 10, 15 customers, what it is, go out and talk to them, ask them what's going on in their businesses. Get that feedback, understand where the pain is. Make sure that those, like the people who are dealing with that main point of contact, are they giving them the right information? Are they looking like superheroes in front of their team? Because that should be our goal as an MSP, to make sure that they look like they're really competent. They've got everything, they're saying the right things, and they feel confident in front of their teams. Because if they're all of a sudden questioning stuff in front of their C level, then all of a sudden we're in a different place. And then for that end user, they're anxious. They're the front lines for their customers. They're the ones feeling the pressure that we feel the pressure for dealing within the MSP space. So let's make sure that they're getting quick responses, quick communication, and they will truly appreciate that, because they were nervous as hell reaching out for help in the first place.
Awesome. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is right here from Wayne Kramer, the ex part of a $1 trillion MSP who sold last year.
Wow, man, that'd be amazing.
Look at, take his advice seriously. I mean, this is somebody who's been there, done that. I mean, I am just talking out of my butt half the time, but Wayne's been there. He knows how to treat his customers well. They ran a successful shop around that. So take that to heart. Act on that today. Customer experience is where you need to be. It is a very important item. When I asked Wayne what he could talk about, this was his first thing that he wanted to talk about with MSPs. So thank you, Wayne, for coming on. And we'll look forward to talking to you next week on, what did we decide?
I think it was onboarding, wasn't it?
Onboarding, yeah. Like how onboard customers, what onboarding should actually look like. And here at Humanize IT, we're actually revamping that right now. So looking forward to you next week.
Perfect. Thanks, Adam.